McLaren's management approach so flawed that it might drive away both of their championship drivers? What made Andrea Stella go public with warnings about losing his driver's confidence? Could McLaren's behind-the-scenes dysfunction gift Max Verstappen a title he shouldn't win? These questions expose a team falling apart from within, where having the fastest car becomes irrelevant when the people operating it can't function as a unit. Andrea Stella spoke with brutal honesty when facing the press following Singapore. The team boss at McLaren delivered a confession that shocked the entire paddock. "We need to be accurate because there is a lot at stake," Stella stated. "Not only the championship points, but the trust of our drivers and the way we operate as a team." Such transparency is almost unprecedented in Formula One. Team leaders usually dodge questions, minimize problems, or outright reject claims of internal discord. Yet Stella's frank acknowledgement shows exactly how critical the situation has become at McLaren. The moment that sparked this breakdown happened during lap 1 in Singapore, where Lando Norris executed an aggressive maneuver that caused contact with both Max Verstappen and his teammate, Oscar Piastri. Norris kept going and claimed third position. Piastri had a different outcome. His team radio cut through the communications with clear frustration. That wasn't very team-like, but sure, the letdown in his tone said everything. What amplified the situation dramatically was McLaren's reaction, or more accurately, their silence. The team decided against any intervention, essentially validating Norris's bold move as legitimate racing. For Piastri, who's previously been instructed to compromise his own race for the team's advantage, this seemed like a complete betrayal of trust. The young driver from Australia has exemplified what it means to be a team player since arriving at McLaren in 2023. He's complied with team instructions when asked. He's repeatedly put McLaren's objectives ahead of his personal goals. Yet, Singapore demonstrated that this dedication might not be reciprocated. This is where McLaren's entire strategy collapses. The team introduced their so-called Papaya Rules, clear-cut guidelines designed to ensure clean racing between their drivers. The fundamental principle was basic: avoid colliding with your teammate. Instead of keeping this straightforward, McLaren complicated matters by getting involved in different scenarios and creating expectations they couldn't maintain uniformly. Stella himself recognized this core weakness in their methodology. "We want to protect this let them race concept, and we know as soon as you adopt this concept, you face difficulties," he confessed. This statement is striking because it demonstrates McLaren understands their present system isn't functioning, though they're having trouble discovering an option that works for both drivers. The genuine problem is lack of consistency. McLaren has built a system where both drivers anticipate team involvement whenever disputes emerge. Yet making decisions that satisfy both drivers at once becomes impossible when they're fighting for identical championship positions. This has created growing frustration from both Norris and Piastri, with each feeling they're being treated inequitably based on the circumstances. The timing of this breakdown couldn't be more problematic for McLaren. With the championship still undecided mathematically, Piastri presently maintains a 22-point lead over Norris, while Verstappen stays in the hunt for the crown. Should McLaren's internal struggles keep intensifying, they face the ultimate humiliation, giving the championship to Verstappen, while their drivers fight amongst themselves rather than concentrating on the actual threat. However, there's an even more fundamental concern here. Both Norris and Piastri are world-class talents with alternatives available. They don't require McLaren as desperately as McLaren requires them, particularly now that the team has finally built a title-contending machine. Should either driver determine that McLaren isn't the proper setting for their progression, competing teams will queue up with attractive proposals. Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari are monitoring McLaren's internal difficulties with keen interest. They recognize that unhappy drivers frequently consider new opportunities. The driver market heading into 2026 and beyond might appear completely different should McLaren's leading drivers determine their futures belong somewhere else. And the reality is clear. McLaren's engineering division has accomplished something exceptional by creating a machine that can compete with and frequently defeat Red Bull. All of that technical brilliance becomes worthless if the team fails at managing their people effectively. The psychological impact on both drivers cannot be overlooked. Piastri has demonstrated unwavering commitment to McLaren since arriving in 2023. He's done everything the team has asked, consistently putting team interests first. But the Singapore incident has clearly tested that dedication. When a driver begins questioning whether their team supports them equally, it plants seeds of doubt that directly impact on-track performance. Norris faces different but equally challenging pressures. The British driver has been with McLaren since 2019 and played a crucial role in rebuilding the team to championship contention. He knows his aggressive racing style sometimes creates complications, but he also believes he must take calculated risks to secure victories. The backlash following Singapore has placed him in a difficult position where he must balance competitiveness against teamwork. The complexity increases when you consider that both drivers have significant support within the organization. Norris has been McLaren's leading driver for years and maintains a strong relationship with CEO Zak Brown. Piastri is viewed as the team's future and has earned widespread respect for his speed and professionalism. This means any decision McLaren makes will inevitably disappoint one faction within the team. Stella's remarks suggest McLaren is finally grasping the severity of their situation. The review needs to be very detailed, very analytical, and it needs to take into account the point of view of our two drivers, Stella explained. We will form a common opinion, and we will see whether it confirms our initial interpretation or if there is something else that we should compute. But recognizing a problem and solving it are entirely different challenges. McLaren must fundamentally overhaul their driver management strategy. Their current approach of trying to please everyone while making inconsistent decisions clearly isn't working. The path forward requires unwavering consistency, establishing definitive guidelines and sticking to them, regardless of which driver benefits or suffers in any given situation. They must also accept that championship battles between teammates inevitably create tension. Trying to eliminate all friction between Norris and Piastri is unrealistic and has only made things worse. Both drivers operate under immense pressure to deliver results, and they analyze every team decision to determine whether they're being treated fairly. When drivers start suspecting their own team is working against them, it creates destructive dynamics that can derail championship campaigns. The upcoming races represent a critical period for McLaren. They must demonstrate to both drivers that they can make fair, consistent decisions under pressure. With 6 races remaining and a championship hanging in the balance, time is running out to repair these fractured relationships. Every passing day without resolution makes the situation harder to salvage. Can McLaren fix this crisis before it's too late? Will Piastri's trust in the team ever fully recover? And most importantly, will McLaren's internal chaos cost them everything they've worked to achieve? The answers to these questions will define not just this season, but potentially the next era of Formula One.